Hey, Juventini, welcome back to the All Juvecast. This is episode 140. We're going to be recapping the Derby d'Italia matchup in the Coppa Italia for the first leg of the semifinals. And joining me for that one, I've got Luis. Luis, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Happy to get a win.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. This one was, typical little derby there. You got a lot of interesting scenarios. You get some yellow cards, get a few goals. I was shocked to see the first one end with a clean sheet against Juve. I actually predicted the final score that we saw, which was Juve pulling it out, getting the 2-1 victory. So yeah, that was much needed as well. But mixed reviews on this match from Juventini, a lot of Juventini, and mixed reviews kicking us off on the lineups. And I'd love to get your take as we got the lineups. Leading up to it, we heard we were going to get strong lineup from Juve. What we ended up seeing was quite a few changes than the original projected. The original projected also showed a true 3-5-2. And then we saw the 4-4-2 going into this hybrid 3-5-2 setup. So what we ended up getting, Buffon in goal, Quadrado, Demiral, De Ligt, and Sandro across the back with Bernardeschi, Rabiot, Bentancur, McKennie across the middle with Kulusevski and CR7 up top. Let's get your thoughts, Luis, because I know you had reached out to me on this. So let's kick it off with what you thought when the initial lineup came out. And real quick shout out to Vishwajit and Colin, who are already joining us live. Ciao, guys. Thanks for joining. And Luis, let's go. Your thoughts on this lineup when you saw it?
So, I was kind of concerned on the back line mainly. I was okay with Demiral getting the start. Some of the guys are there that you expect to see in a game like this, but we're used to seeing three center backs, and by not having that, it kind of made Alexandro and Quadrado kind of had to have a little bit more defensive responsibility, and I'm not sure that's the best way to go out there. And then also putting Bernardeschi in there, which we all have our mixed feelings about him. I just felt like that was going to take away from the bite moving forward. And I think that based on the way that Pirlo went out there, we were going to put a lot of pressure on them and really go out there and try to win it. But I did want that defensive solidity in the back that I don't think that we get with De Ligt and Demiral back there, with Sandro and Quadrado kind of having to come back to it. So that was my concern. I would prefer Morata over Kulusevski. But that's, I guess it's just a personal preference there. But and then Arthur, I think Arthur should have started. I think he's shown to be one of the guys that you must start every game, and didn't get that. I think the Rabiot and Bentancur give you a lot of the same. So it would be nice to see him start. And I mean, I thought we had the best lineup. I thought we've developed that over time. And then we didn't go to it whenever we're playing Merida, which is a must-win game, regardless of Coppa Italia, Serie A, could be Champions League, really doesn't matter. We're going up against them. We should always have our best lineup out there.
Yeah. In terms of the lineup, I could see, where he was going. For me, I would have had Danilo. I would have had Danilo out there, personally. Even with De Ligt and Demiral as a pair, I'm okay with, because number one, Bonucci and what he's hit and miss, and more often it's been miss, especially in 1v1 scenarios, and you weren't sure how this one would play out. If they had scenarios against Bonucci like Chiellini had to deal with in the first outing against them, I would feel pretty rough there in terms of confidence in Bonucci if he had to try and get into that same setup. Chiellini, I think we would be pushing it for minutes for him. and he's kind of got to be managed a little bit in terms of minutes. Definitely huge when he can play, though. Sandro in this one, it was clear seeing the lineup, he would be the one that would kind of make that third center back, kind of like what Danilo's been doing. So lines up as 4-4-2, but offensively you'll switch to that 3. The question marks, for me were, in the middle, not having Arthur, not having that escape. Would Merda press us hard enough that we would need that guy in there that controls possession so well and whatnot? So not having Arthur there was big. And then the other one was Kulishevsky for me. Is Kulishevsky going to be effective? We essentially know what we sacrifice when we line up, say, Dybala and CR7 or Kulishevsky and CR7. Anytime Morata, our true 9, isn't in there, we lose that focal point, and there's a little too much free roaming. And yeah, it just always feels like we get to a certain point and there's just that missing link up, right? It loses. It needs a sense of. It needs a reference point up top, basically. If you have a couple guys that are both playing with a lot of freedom, you lose that. So those were kind of my things going into it. Did I think this lineup was still strong? I thought it was still a strong lineup. Bentancur had been coming up pretty good. McKennie is coming along very, very nicely. Rabiot. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was having Arthur in that middle was the big spot there. But otherwise, I had confidence in everybody else going into it. And yeah, we get to the match, and man, 9 minutes in, what a fucking start, eh? Oh man, what a fucking start. And yeah, ciao to Malay just joining us. Eric's just here for the Berna banter, he says. Yeah, fantastic. We'll definitely talk about Bernardeschi. Yeah, 9 minutes in, man. Barella. So we get a scenario where we move up the pitch. Alexandro crosses it in. It's handled easily by Merda. They come back. It's a 1v1 scenario with Sanchez and Demiral battling. Alexandro runs back to the face of Sanchez. Sanchez dishes it off, and Barella's gone. He absolutely blows by the guys. You look at the position going back. Bentancur's going back, but there's no guys around, so he's kind of just tracking back at a trot. And then the ball goes in, low hard cross. And I thought De Ligt was good positionally. He slid down there. He still couldn't stop it from going. And then a lot of shouts for Buffon having to save that. And I know that when a guy gets his hands to it like that, you expect him to stop it and whatnot. But honestly, like with De Ligt in front and sliding down, I don't think Buffon saw it till it was just too late and he happened to get a piece. But it's hard for me to even put that one on Gigi. But just a bad start. And this one, trying to sort out where it kind of went wrong, that's a tough one because we literally had De Ligt, Bentancur, Demiral, Sandro back against literally Barella and Lautaro. So we should have handled it pretty good. But again, maybe if Bentancur had filled in for Demiral and recognized that a bit better and actually bolted back to get his back to our goal so that it could be in a position to actually cover for Demiral, things could have been differently. But it's hard to really place blame when you're outnumbering the guys so much. But brutal start, man. Like, what's running through your head 9 minutes in and we go down in this one?
Well, one thing about the play that I kind of disagree with you a little bit was I feel like De Ligt should have done a little bit more. Whenever Demiral steps up to Sanchez, he's kind of ball watching a little bit. So when the pass comes in, Lautaro is behind him. He actually isn't sure where he is. So he kind of ran up in front of him to take that shot. So I feel like De Ligt, the very rare mistake that he makes, because he's obviously amazing all the time, I feel like he should have had that. But Demiral, and we can get into this later in the game when he has that yellow card against Sanchez way on the opposite side of the field. I mean, that's a foul right there. Just take Sanchez down, let's set up, and let's keep going. But that didn't happen, so you expect Lautaro to score those, and he did. So
yeah,
I can't hold it against Gigi. I wish he would have blocked it. I mean, in past, he has done it before, and it's amazing. It's not something you should require your goalie to do, but
you could definitely make the shout that Demiral's just got to take a professional foul there on Sanchez. But again, in terms of De Ligt and his positioning, if you watch at the start, once Demiral's going 1v1, De Ligt almost starts to slot over, and he must have got the shouts because Lautaro was actually wide coming in, so he was on his back, and he must have got the shouts from Buffon because he does adjust and kind of backs up a bit and then kind of holds positionally. But at the time the ball crosses in, he's kind of in between Lautaro and goal, and Lautaro does well to cut him off just in time to get there. So it's a tough one even to say on him because he's watching the play this way. He's aware, obviously, the guy's there, but it's a tough one, man. Honestly, I think if we get really into it, you can argue Demiral's got to take a professional foul there so we can set up. Or even, like I said, Bentancur actually fills in, or De Ligt. It's hard to say De Ligt's got to go over there, and because he kind of was in his spot. So it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. You could even argue Sandro just blows by and doesn't just run to the face of Sanchez and actually gets him behind for the coverage too. I mean, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to pick. It was a brutal start, man, on that goal. But then we get a little further on here. Cuadrado gets taken down, and this thing gets reviewed. Thank God we get a call because Eric's going to be ready for this one. Bernardeschi's ball was absolute garbage. Jesus, man. He's got a guy that has a step on his player that's running in on goal. Everybody watching that knows low and hard, and he's on his left foot, so he can swing it towards Cuadrado. He's got a perfect line around the defense, low and hard, fire it in there, hope Cuadrado gets to it. He blows this thing up into the goddamn rafters. I don't know what the hell that cross was. Shocking. But it goes to review. We get the PK, and real quick, for me, it was an easy call. And I saw some people saying that it shouldn't have been a call. Some people got to realize that in terms of the cross, the fact whether the guy can get to it or not is not even in question. So some were saying, well, he wouldn't have got to the ball anyways. Look at the play. That has no bearing on it. It's a foul, clear as day. It's in the area. He held him up. He's got him tangled. He goes down. It is what it is. That's an easy call for me. So I was kind of shocked to see some that were saying, "Oh, it's here we go." And the storylines, Juve, ref, all this. We'll just ignore Milan's massive amount of penalties and everything. So we get it. CR7 steps up 1-1. So very, very good. Eric, in terms of Bernardeschi's cross, he was looking for far post in Turin. Yeah, that's exactly what he was looking at. So we tied up 1-1, and at this point, I'm thinking, man, this was a really, really good scenario for us because had we not tied this up, you could see Merda being very, very comfortable in locking things down and taking their counters. So the fact that we were able to get this and tied up relatively quickly, huge for us. Huge for us. Were your thoughts kind of the same there, Luis, at this point?
Yeah, no, I was happy to get the goal. Ashley Young did us a huge favor. I don't know if he needed to do that because maybe he doesn't know who Bernardeschi is. Because, I mean, even prime Ronaldo would have gotten nowhere near that ball. So I'm happy that they gave us the foul, and Ronaldo, you can expect to make those every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, about 10 minutes later, 9 minutes later, out of nowhere, like such a surprise. We've got a light press out on the flank there. Players got to go backwards with it. I believe it was Skriniar goes back. It's between Bastoni and Handanovic. You see CR7 crank it up. He's chasing this one hard. And man, you're just waiting for it. I'm thinking, like, is Bastoni gonna get out of the way so Handanovic can just pump this thing, or what's going on? He decides to play it, and CR7 read him like a book. Strips it right off his feet. He's on his off foot. He's on an interesting angle, and he takes this shot, and I'm watching and I'm holding my goddamn breath. And I'm like, oh my God, is this thing curling away at the TV's angle on the broadcast? And then, of course, post in, I'm all jacked up, 2-1. And that's a nice one because it's demoralizing for Merda to give one up like that. So big one. And I made a comment, again, could you imagine, should he have missed? But that angle and stuff, I think it's kind of underappreciated, like that particular goal, because on your bad foot, it's not the best angle, even though it's clear. I know how it looks, like clear open net, but man, that did make me nervous for a bit. But awesome to see us up 2-1. We finished the half pretty strong, really, in terms of control and whatnot, but not generating a whole lot of chances. We had another cross where I believe it was McKinney got into a good position, crossed it over, and we just couldn't get Ronaldo on the end of it. But outside of that, not a lot in terms of creation, but I liked where we were at. And what I wanted to avoid was the massive letdown that we've been seeing sometimes, especially with Leeds in that second half. But for me, the left side was a little awkward. That Sandro, Rabiot, Bernardeschi thing was a little awkward. I couldn't quite narrow it down to exactly what it was that was kind of bothering me in there, because this game felt like it had waves in and out of decent form and decent play into bad play. And it wasn't just one guy, it was kind of all of them. And it wasn't like all of them all of a sudden were good in play and up in form. It was like, man, at one time the left side looked completely awful. And then all of a sudden Rabiot started doing some good things, but Bernardeschi and Sandro kind of weren't along with it. Then all of a sudden Bernardeschi started doing some good things, but then Rabiot kind of held us back in certain areas. And then, you know what I mean? And I kind of saw that across the lineup of guys just, doing well and then dipping out, and then doing well, dipping out. Bentancur first half to second half was complete night and day. And Pirlo coming out saying that he's got a hole in his foot. Well, what, a hole in your foot? Impressive. No wonder he can't shoot. The ball goes right through his goddamn foot. It's crazy, man. But obviously lost in translation, probably has a hairline fracture, I'm thinking, or something, something along those lines in a bone in his foot. Might explain why some of his touches get away from him, because maybe he's a little gun shy. Maybe it's so much pain he's dealing with. I don't really know, but his touch let us down in certain areas where Merda put us under. So Bentancur from one half to the other was, it was night and day. But and Kulusevski, for me, Kulusevski was missing. He was missing in action for a lot of this one. He had a great seat to this match, let's put it that way. But your thoughts at halftime and the performance?
Well, we were fortunate to be up at half. I thought they had better chances, honestly, and but if you're up, you're happy with that so far. I was hoping that we'd make some changes in the second half and really put the pressure on and try to get another goal, try to get an insurance goal. I wanted a 3-1. That's what I predicted. So I was thinking that we might take the pressure off and not be at the edge of our seats the whole time. But turned out that's what ended up happening. We were at the edge of our seat the whole time. So But happy to be up at half at least.
Yeah, that's just it, right? Is we got to take the lead. These derbies can go anyway, and usually, while I was expressing, I'm kind of frustrated in terms of chances generated and whatnot, and was looking for more. These derbies usually go that way. Usually, it's a dogfight like that, and sometimes those are the differences in the match. Is like getting that PK, or capitalizing on a mistake by your opponent. And you can argue they did the same to us in the 9th minute. We were in a vulnerable position, and we should have done better in that scenario. So, that is kind of what it is. We start off the second half again. I would have maybe. It's a tough one to say, should we have changed something based on the left side or even based on Kulishevsky kind of not really playing a part? Do you go with Morata in the second one? Because we got to think about the goals as well, and this is our away fixture. Merda not having Hakimi and Lukaku as well. I was seeing like this is an opportunity for us to really take advantage. We should be going at them. We should be putting them under. So if Kulishevsky's not heavily involved, do you bring Morata on early? For me, you got to push for another goal. Like I would have liked to see the 3 goals away from home would have been big, and you get 2 in the first half. You should really push for that. We don't get any changes. We kick off the half actually looking pretty good. Bernardeschi gets in a great area. The shot gets deflected. Quadrado finds Bernardeschi just in the top of the area, and his shot gets deflected, and Handanovic actually moves for once in his career, and he makes a big save. And I'm thinking, oh man, the second that deflects, Handanovic will just be flat-footed, because we see that from him all the time. No, he makes this stop, and unfortunate for Bernardeschi. Like I said, a guy that was weird in this one of a couple where it kind of was in and out of form throughout this game, But yeah, unfortunate there. Awesome play. Derby d'Italia shit. Had to post this, but De Ligt steps in on Barella big time. Sends him for a nice little flip. I would love to know what Ronaldo said to De Ligt after the challenge, because you see De Ligt look over at Ronaldo and he starts smiling. The two of them started smiling, but absolutely awesome. Maybe in terms of he said, like, if I had to think or guess what he would have said, it's probably like Barella is one of those guys. Barella is a fantastic player, he reminds me of Chiesa though in terms of embellishing moments, or challenges or things like that. So he's got that part where he's very similar to Chiesa. Both hard workers. I think they're both great players. Barella was he's just a nightmare to play against. He's everywhere. He's got incredible energy, great pace. He can really do it all, cross the ball in. He could score if it comes down to it. We saw that. But I would think it's something in regards to that, and De Ligt just saying, okay, boom, I'm going in. Like you'll finally feel one if you're going to embellish things. But it was it was absolutely awesome, man. And I wouldn't want De Ligt's tree trunk of a leg going through mine at the ankle, man. So picks up a yellow. Awesome Derby d'Italia shit there. Loved it. And then we move on through some key points. Bentancur loses it again. We talked about that touch. But again, dude's got a hole in his foot. Whatever. Loses it in a brutal spot. Sanchez almost capitalizes. He beats Buffon. Meri Demiral with a massive block stopping that. And fantastic play by Demiral. You see how pumped he is afterwards. Love that. Him, Buffon, De Ligt, the guys getting jacked up. And we would need that because, man, foot off the throttle. Exactly what you and I discussed. We didn't want to see. What many Juventini didn't want to see, but we did. We just went into old Catenaccio days, man. Lockdown. 68th minute. We let Darmian get in to a prime area. And looking back, thank God it was Darmian. But
I said those exact words as I was watching.
Makes a nice move, nice feint, gets in there, and Gigi Buffon does what Gigi Buffon does. Huge, huge save, man. At this point, I'm getting nervous. It's the 68th minute. We've got quite a few guys on yellows. I'm thinking, man, we make a change here. Like, do we get a change here? Because, man, Merida's coming on. We've been flat through most of the second half, other than the opening moments with the Bernardeschi opportunity. Make a change. Were you shouting out for some changes there, Luis, based on how this was going? And we're about 68th minute in with Buffon's big save.
So I'm not sure. I'm sure you have this jotted down, but the changes happened pretty quickly after that, right?
Yeah. So 75th minute is where we see Arthur come in for Bentancur, and then Morata for CR7, who in turn was not happy. But yeah, you could see this going either way. And then it's tough when you talk about it, but I'll let you continue on. Yeah, the changes were around the 75th minute for Juventus.
So I feel like one of the criticisms that Pirlo gets a lot is that he's late to sub. I mean, I think he's like a player's coach is what they say, and he wants them to play out of that slump. And I think he did that again this time. He's always late, I don't know, let's say 10, 15 minutes max. You know, I don't know if I would have done it a whole lot earlier, but, you know, when the subs came, they were definitely welcome. I thought that he needed to make those at that time.
Yeah, and that's just it. And actually, I need to stand corrected. There was one, and actually Eric's on it, 69th. I missed the Danilo change for Bernardeschi. Danilo came in immediately after that. So a little bit strange in terms of setup, I guess, unless they moved Danilo. I'm trying to recall. I think they moved Danilo back and moved Sandro almost to that wing back role, which is fine. And Danilo's been steady at the back or whatnot. So sorry, I missed that one, 69th. After that, it was the 76th with Arthur and then Morata coming on. Obviously, we saw CR7 upset. I wasn't surprised to see him upset. What were your thoughts in terms of making that move? Would you have moved Kulishevsky instead, kept Ronaldo out there? Because we're only talking a difference of about 15 minutes, you know, less than that, you know, 15 minutes, some stoppage time. Would you have kept him out at that point and added Morata in terms of swinging things and maybe finding that third goal away from home? Or do you give him that bit of rest, albeit, you know, 15 minutes or whatnot? What were your thoughts on that one?
I was okay with the sub. I know that Ronaldo gets angry if he gets subbed ever, and that's just the type of competitor that he is, and I think that that's okay that he'd be upset about it. But, you know, we have some big games coming up, you know, and they're all really close to each other. You know, we're playing Inter again in a week, and then we're playing Roma in between. I mean, those are big games. Those are must-win games for us. You know, if we can get him a little bit of rest, why not? You know, and we should have the team that can get goals when Ronaldo's not out there. I mean, if we have to rely on him to play 90 minutes every single game, we're going to be in some trouble. So I feel like it was a confident move by Pirlo to do that. And I knew that some people would be upset about it. Obviously, he was, Ronaldo was, but we need to be able to score goals without him. And if taking him out 15 minutes early is going to kill us, then, you know, we're just not going to win, you know, a two-legged match against Merida. That's just not going to work.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately we talked about it, Arthur coming on for Bentancur. The argument could have been made, get Rabiot, but we saw Bentancur starting to suffer in terms of touch, give away his play from the first half to the second was night and day. I think I was okay with that. But Arthur on the ball was absolutely disgusting, eating up Merida's press. It's crazy to me, man. You're hard pressed starting to even remember scenarios where he lost it. I can think of only one moment comes to mind for me this season where I remember him actually being dispossessed. It's crazy. Yeah, we get Morata out. We actually we're managing well at the back, wave after wave. You could see us just letting off. There's a couple opportunities of countering that we don't necessarily make much out of. And then, we essentially see this one through. There was very, very fortunate scenarios for Merda not to have a couple guys sent off too. It was actually crazy. Antonio actually made mention of it earlier here with Merda fans going on about the refs when Sanchez and Vidal should have had second yellow. And Barella having immunity from being booked also. So yeah, there was definitely questionable scenarios in there. One that actually wasn't even questionable is actually shocking, but nonetheless, the boys see it out. We get the 2-1 victory. We'll face them off in the second leg back in Turin. And we're going to cover a few extra items now and get into and just broaden the discussion in terms of this matchup and everything and what we saw, what we noticed. Real quick, RB joining. Hey, Alberto. Hey, RB, thanks for joining, my man. Pirlo showed balls to sub CR7, and it was the right choice to make with the games coming up. Yes, you can easily say he did the right thing. I also understand some that might feel he was our biggest attempt at getting that third because it's going to be a different Merda side once they have Lukaku in there and Hakimi. Hakimi is a nightmare on that flank. And we'll talk about who goes, how we line up that left side once Hakimi is there, and what we do at the back based on Lukaku getting back into the fold. And we'll talk about that. Antonio coming in here with Kulishevsky, frustrating as usual last night. We are seriously lacking a reserve for Alvaro, who's key to our play. This is concerning. Well, this is the perfect segue for player performances and man of the match. So let's kick it off, Luis, with I want to get your man of the match, and then let's start there, and then we'll break it down on certain specific players. And everybody that was tuning in here live, get your thoughts in as we get to certain players. Francisco coming in with bully ball yesterday. Yeah, he pretty much called it, how that was going to go down. But Luis, your man of the match. CR?
Yeah, you can't get cute. It's CR7. I mean, He scored 2 goals. He was trying for a third. I mean, he was pushing the team forward, it seemed like. And man of the match, easy for me.
Yeah. That's an easy one in this one. But now let's get to those outsiders. The ones we're getting a lot of mixed reviews on in terms of performances so far this season and even Merda match. So Merih Demiral, I want to kick it off with Merih Demiral. Everyone that's joining us live, your thoughts on Merih Demiral's match versus Merda. So I saw a lot of posts basically stating that Merih Demiral gets all this credit and props for being just this labeled as this guy with grinta or whatnot, but sell him the first opportunity. I was seeing a lot of this. And people were all of a sudden discrediting based on the fact that he's 1 year older than Matthias de Ligt. And I can't understand this, to be honest. For me, Demiral, you could say moments at the beginning, he was off. You could see it was a little shaky, but I can't remember the exact minute where it was almost like a switch went off, and all of a sudden he was great for the rest of it. And I thought he played fantastic. I liked what he and de Ligt did. Would things have been different with Lukaku in there? I don't think we get into that. Personally, I feel very confident in de Ligt lining up against Lukaku. And I think in the return, that's what you should do. But that's just my opinion. But Demiral, for me, it's interesting because we also had rumors albeit if they were garbage or whatnot, but even speaking hypothetically about Demirol, man, if we were talking offers 45 and upwards, I think you consider it or whatnot. But I think it's a shame to just say that he's not as good as some are hyping up to be or whatnot. Like, I think he's got incredible potential. He's pretty damn good already. And we got to think too, this guy's been fighting for minutes. You know, like he came back from, he got 2 quick injuries, but he's been battling for minutes and whatnot. And you can't help but think where he would be if he had that continuity, right? So I want to get your thoughts just overall in general on Demirol, Luis.
So a couple things on Demirol. First of all, he doesn't have as much experience as somebody his age would suggest. I feel like he hasn't had that much, you know, first team minutes in a big league as, you know, say, you know, De Ligt next to him and things like that. So I feel like he's still developing, and I think that he needs the chance to do that. Another thing is his grinta. Like, everybody talks about that being this plus, but it's really a double-edged sword for him because, for example, that yellow card against Sanchez, I mean, was that necessary? You know, like, do you really need to do that? And, you know, he does that a lot. And then the third thing I'd say about him is he's not very good on the ball. You know, if he needs to make a pass forward and they take away De Ligt right next to him, he kind of freezes. He's like, not sure. He's like, I can pass it to Cuadrado or De Ligt. He's not going to go forward and make a pass to split the defense. And I think that's really the reason why he's not playing as much as he otherwise could, because he can't handle that press with the ball at his feet. So a couple things, I think he can improve there, and I think he will. But as far as selling him, I mean, you know, Chiellini being as old as he is, Bonucci being as unloved as he is, I feel like we should, you know, that's the old guard that's going to move out. And Demirol, De Ligt, Dragusin, even Danilo, who's not as old, you know, these guys can kind of take over for the future. So I do think we need him because we're going to need a player like him, if not him. So I like him. I don't think he had the best game, but I think that there's something there that we need to kind of explore further.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment, 100%. It's just, and again, there's a lot of outside determining factors too. It could go any way depending on what does end up happening in the Mercado or not. But at the same time, when you look at our backline, man, it'd be weird to get rid of a guy that young, that promising, you know, at that time when you've got guys like Chiellini, Bonucci, who are, you know, basically it's just counting the time down, right? So be interesting. But yeah, he's by no means polished. Nowhere near as polished as De Ligt. And that's a completely fair and real judgment. And you talked about those moments he has, right? You could even, like we said, break it down on that first goal. You talked about that foul on Sanchez there. So there are these moments. But yesterday, especially down the stretch there in that match, he was big. He was really, really big. So I like that. Kulusevski. I want to talk about Kulusevski. And, man, to many Juventini, this guy is almost like an enigma, you know? Like he does well in one scenario, one match, and then the next he can be invisible, right? I want to get your thoughts, your take on Kulusevski, you know, and this particular match.
So this particular match is probably something to forget for him. I think he would probably tell you himself he didn't have the greatest match. As far as him as a player, I think he's a fantastic player. I think he has the capability to do all the things that you need a guy like him to do. I just think that based on the way that we play, the way that we set up, I mean, he's not a striker. I mean, that's clear. And I just don't think that he's going to get the opportunities to play the game his way because he's not the guy on our team. You know, you come from Udinese, you can do whatever you want. You know, you're you're way better than everybody next to you. But at Juve, you gotta stay in line. You gotta do the role that you're needed to do. And I just don't think that a guy like Kulusevski should be given the freedom to just kind of roam wherever he wants on this particular team, on this particular lineup, the way that we line up. So I think keeping him long-term past like the Ronaldo days, I think there's a lot of players that will benefit a lot from Ronaldo not being there. Not to say that we need to get rid of him or anything like that, but I just think that for him to have the freedom that he needs and to really contribute the way that he can, he's going to need to have a little bit more freedom than we can allow him right now. And that's kind of his issue right now.
Yeah, that's a good take too. And I mean, we've got guys coming in on Kulusevski, RB coming in with Kulu's decision making reminds me of Bernardeschi. He has the talent. We should give him time.
That's not a compliment.
Man. Decision making. That Calcio boy with Kula needs to impose himself more. He gets lost and disappears in games. Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, I put it down to the same thing. Is that for me, Morata is so key to even how the other guys do. Just that position. I had my sneaking suspicions, and I even called it in terms of Kulusevski and said, hey, maybe this guy needs, like, to me it looked really, really good, the match when we had Morata up top with him, and it's night and day to when it's Kulusevski and Ronaldo up there. Did we make a mistake not bringing in a 9, even if it is a guy that like Scamacca that a lot of people didn't want or whatnot? Maybe less is more in terms of just having somebody that plays that role. I know you got to get going, right, Luis?
I have time. No, I have another hour.
Oh, you got another hour? Time zones are messing with me, man. So we're good. We're not. Oh, man. I thought for some reason I had 5:30 a.m. my time as this time. So we're good.
We're good.
Okay. So do you think we missed an opportunity? And how do you feel about banking on this Kulusevski experiment up top? Do you think we should have went for a 9?
So, in short, yes. I think that we should have gone for a 9, and I think we did go for a 9. I think we kicked the tires, and we really tried to have the conversations to get that person on, but we were also being smart about who we were going to spend money on, how much money we were going to spend on it, and after having those conversations and looking at those players, we decided that for the money, it wasn't worth doing. And, you know, we're talking about playing Merida, which, you know, they're almost at the top of our league, and it's the game that you can afford to bring out your best players every time. But if we're playing, you know, Sampdoria, we're playing, you know, Cagliari, Bologna, those types of teams, I mean, we can put out Kulusevski and get the job done. So while I would have liked to get one, I'm glad that we didn't overspend, get somebody on a longer contract than we wanted to, and then we had to deal with getting rid of them and things like that. I'm glad that we didn't do it because we didn't do bad business in doing so. Would have been nice to get somebody, you know, I mean, some of the names that were kicked around, though, is like, you know, Llorente, like, really? You know, like, is that really something that we want to do just because he's a tall guy that can stand there? Like, that just doesn't make sense, you know, as far as building the team the way that we want to. So while I would have liked to get one, I'm glad that we didn't overpay and go get somebody that was going to be just a stopgap.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. There's also some interesting stuff coming on the chat that we're going to pull into this as well. Real quick, we'll get on Colin here saying that Kulu butchered too many counterattacks last night. He did. Again, going down to decision making. Again, coming into those positions, there's not a lot of play available to him in some of them. Not all of them. Don't get me wrong. He butchered counterattacks, but and there were times he needs to move the ball, work off his teammates. But a lot of time, again, I think that 9, man, that focal point in this setup is crucial, man. It's just crucial. Not taking away any credit from Morata, like not discredit him in any way, shape, or form, because what he's done great. But I think just the guys that play it in that manner, right? Antonio talking about Kulu will really struggle to get a place in the setup moving forward. He's had plenty of opportunities. And yes, Al, we made a huge mistake not bringing in a number 9. Eric, this is one we got to get into and discuss here. I think Chiesa up top also needs to be tried instead of Kulusevski. So this is an interesting one, because there was a point in the season where I probably would have said, no, I just see him as that classic all-out winger or whatnot. But I'm trying to remember the match. It may have been against Milan where Pirlo made the adjustment, and Chiesa went from not being able to get triggered in the play very often to all of a sudden dominating, and they slid him in centrally a little bit more. I believe it was that match. I think it was that match, but it kind of opened my eyes to it and made me very much open to attempting him as one of those up top guys. Again, though, would I have Chiesa and Ronaldo up top? No. I would have Chiesa as an option playing up top with Morata, though. And I think that definitely is a good shout, but I can't see a front two of Chiesa and Ronaldo being a whole lot different than Kulusevski and Ronaldo, because I see those guys roaming around all over the place too. Chiesa, the way he plays too, he knows how crucial those give and goes are. I see Kulusevski as really trying to beat guys a lot, 1v1, and I see Chiesa as really knowing his pace and knowing how to penetrate defenses and get by them and take guys on, when to take guys on and when not to, and when to use his teammates. We saw that fantastic goal with between Dybala and he. So Chiesa and Ronaldo, I'd probably say no, but Chiesa and Morata, that's a shout for sure. But then again, you run into this issue. CR's not going anywhere, right? He's always going to occupy one of those spots. So it's questionable. Would you go with Chiesa as one of those two? And what do you think about him partnering up with Ronaldo instead of Kulusevski when this does happen?
I wouldn't go with Chiesa up top. I think he's a fantastic player. It's not to say that he's not great. He is. But he plays naturally in the same position that Ronaldo plays in. And to his credit, he's gotten some good minutes as a left wing back, and he's done really well for us. But I think that ultimately, long term, he's probably going to end up as a left winger up top for us. And because of that, he and Ronaldo just, I mean, they do work well together on those give and goes and things like that. But I just think that we need somebody centrally that really takes up the center backs, really takes up that attention. And I think Ronaldo can actually do that. And he has done that for Real. I think Zidane put him in a 9 role for a little bit there. But he doesn't want to do that, and we don't push him to do that either. So he's CR7. He's one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world. So you kind of have to let him do what he wants to do. But I think that, Dybala is really the partnership with Ronaldo that we want to see. Everybody wants to see. I don't think that he takes up that space centrally that in crosses and things like that. But I do think that if you get McKinney running into the ball, running into the box, which he always does, it gives you a little bit more of that threat once you kind of set up on the offensive half. So it's an interesting problem to have, but we do have Morata, and we can play him for big games, and we should play him for big games. So it's interesting kind of what we're doing there, but we didn't get a 9. We're in the situation that we're in, so we got to make it work with who we have. And I think Kulusevski is a decent guy there, but we really just don't have a second striker that's not Dybala, and I think Dybala is going to have to be the guy moving forward.
So when Dybala gets back, do you think Dybala, he and Ronaldo, because it doesn't, again, him not going anywhere, do you see that working? Because I saw some struggles too before, but I know Dybala was nowhere near what we need out of his form or whatnot, but I kind of see this same same issue of losing that focal point. What do you think about Dybala coming back and then being able to slot in there with Ronaldo?
Well, I don't think you have the traditional focal point, but not every team that plays well has that nine that's like Morata that can, be a challenge in the air and can kind of take up those defenders, kind of push that line back, even push up, off sides and things like that. But you're going to have to play a little bit differently if you have Dybala than if you have Morata in there. But I just think that he gives you enough class and he can get enough people involved, drop back and kind of make those passes forward that you're going to see some different chances from different guys like Cuadrado, like Chiesa. I mean, the last game that Dybala played, he found Chiesa twice in very good situations. So I think that you need to get those midfielders involved. We got 5 of them. I feel like some of them should be getting into the position to kind of score and kind of moving forward. So it's going to be a different way of playing, but I think that it will work, and it has worked. I mean, just last year we had Dybala and Ronaldo kind of linking up a lot better than they have this year. So I think it's possible. We just need a healthy Dybala, and that just has eluded us this year.
Yeah, it's a bit of a different setup. Well, not even a bit, but a much different setup. And last year they also did well as Higuain was kind of around and doing his part too, which was, again, kind of being the same style as Morata in terms of selflessness and, how he plays and whatnot. Actually, that Calcio boy speaking to it a bit here. Morata is very selfless in the sense that he will take up multiple positions between drift and wide and make typical striker runs. But again, Koulish sure needs to work off a 9, similar to Dybala. I feel like they need that guy to work off of. Ronaldo, in terms of his play and whatnot, man, does he roam. He is just, it's all over the map. There's a lot of times I admittedly get pretty frustrated in terms of where he is on the pitch and why he's even there. When he's back, there was a couple times there yesterday, he's in between Bernardeschi and Sandro. Why? No need. There's no need. Get up in the area. And then the reason, if you do get the ball into Kulusevski, the guy already has questionable decision-making at this point of his career that we've all kind of agreed on. But then, you throw in the fact of less options, it's just going to amplify that, right? So, yeah, I'd like to see him just be more in that kind of danger zone or whatnot. But again, it's different with the players. And you mentioned that it changes. It changes with Kulusevski. It'll change with Dybala and whatnot. Is that good or bad? What does that do for us? And then it brings up this whole derby. Okay, this match. And I'll get people's take on this match because, again, this was one that was kind of split. You have fans that were still making shouts about a lot of things, a lot of players, and Rabiot's a bit of a weird one. Sandro, is it time to move on from Sandro? I think we could use some help in fullback department. One side, the left side, obviously more than the right, while I believe we need help at both. Between the sides, it's not even comparable from what you get out of the right, at least to the left. Danilo plays a big part when he's in the lineup and his assistants. You talked about something earlier, going back to Demiral, while we were discussing Demiral. Talked about his play on the ball, right? Another thing I noticed out of this particular matchup is in our setup, Sandro being on one side of De Ligt, Demiral being on the other. Something that worked very well for us in a couple previous matches was we had options to outlet the ball from those positions. That was pretty much gone in this one because Demiral can't play those balls, and he won't play those balls. It's hard to do it from the very central position, the heart of the back three when it makes that mold, because that's usually where your press is. as a team tries to get you to pick one side or the other in order for them to make their shell, right? So Sandro doesn't really give it to you either. So not having Danilo on one side, or even Bono for that reason, just on one, we kind of lost that element and made things a little bit more comfortable for Merda as well, because we had to do everything off the ground. So you got a lot of times where you would get the ball in advanced positions and be stuck because you're trying to do it all from the feet. And it's very hard to do against them because they literally will set up 5 straight across the back and then just push with obviously Barella and then the 2 forwards, whatnot. So it's a tough one. We made things a little bit more challenging for ourselves. But Demiral, in terms of him not being great on the ball, sometimes it still works out for a guy like Chiellini. Chiellini's kind of that guy, man. He's not great on the ball or whatnot, but when you're doing the work at the D, sometimes somebody's got to be that ugly guy, right? But in terms of our play this match, I want to get everybody's thoughts in the comments here too. Join us live. Cause for concern in terms of the lack of creation again from one match to another. This is the second time we've faced these guys short period of time between matches. And in the first one, we didn't create. We created next to nothing. I think it was the 84th minute, if I remember correctly, with Chiesa getting a great opportunity and that really being like the only standout chance in that particular match. That was like, oh, it should have been a goal. And now you get into this match. We talked about the goals. You get a PK called on the challenge or the foul on Cuadrado, and then you get Ronaldo stripping Bastoni with the ball there. Outside of that, again, probably a couple good opportunities. So while many were praising Pirlo for the adjustment from one match to the next, I want to get your take on did he get things right? Do you feel that there was this much adjustment made? Do you think we kind of got also fortunate for not having Hakimi on there? Would we have been in the same boat as we were the first match, him chewing us up between he and Barella? Yeah, just your thoughts on that. Cause for concern, or this is just a derby? Because in derby matches, you know, it's hard to really stick to tactics. All that kind of goes out the window because it's, you know, it's going to be tight. Both teams are going to be getting after it or whatnot and being open. But, man, I don't know if I saw as much as we need to. And what do we attribute that to? That's why we talked about Kulusevski just earlier. Do we attribute that to this setup up top whenever Morata's out there? And when Morata entered the match, to be fair, this one, we were already in Catenaccio mode, man. We were locking her down. So give me your thoughts. Do you see the adjustments there? Do you think it was not so much to do with adjustments? We just had those moments and capitalized, and that's what the difference usually is in these matches. But Pirlo was getting some praise, and I see some praise coming through this morning on his adjustments. What do you think here? Everybody join us live. Get your thoughts on Pirlo and the first match comparison to this one.
Well, I didn't like the lineup to start. You know, I said that earlier.
Yeah.
I feel like you need the 3 center backs, not because we need to play particularly defensively, but because, like, for example, Danilo, he moves forward in a center back position. So I feel like it just gives you that solidity in the back so that it gives some people some freedom in front of them to just kind of go after it and create chances. You know, when you take out a center back, you put in Bernardeschi, of all people. You know, it's like you're really taking away a lot because he's not really giving you much. I mean, we would have had a goal from that penalty kick if he just passed the ball to the guy that was wide open there in front of the goal. So I think that you need to manage egos in the locker room. We have a lot of really talented players that really deserve minutes and want minutes. So I think that Pirlo is probably trying to manage his men a little bit better and just trying to give them some opportunities. But, you know, when you look at the lineup, it's not our best lineup. I don't think Pirlo would tell you that it's the best lineup. So to get the win, that's great. But, you know, do you really want to not put the best 11 out there when you're playing Merida? Like, I mean, it's a big game for us. It's a rivalry that we just always want to win these games. And, Bernardeschi was awful. I think he may have had a couple moments, of couple give and goes and things, but he just, we talked about it last time I was on the cast. It was like his 100th game when he only had like 5 good ones in his entire career. And he probably added 1, maybe 2 since then. It's just, it's not good enough. And I think putting Chiesa in that spot, especially with having Sandro behind him, I think that would have given us a little bit more creativity because he can beat people one-on-one. He does know when to give and go. And that would have given us some more chances. And it really looked like an Allegri game, honestly, at one point there, just crosses. You don't have Alvaro Morata there. You don't have anybody really being that focal point. And it was for nothing. We were just trying to do that just because maybe somebody might get on the end of it. And it's not good enough. So I don't want to say that it's an indictment on Pirlo. I think that he has improved the team over the time that he's been with us, but I think that based on the lineup that he had and the way that the game actually played out, it should have been better. I think that we should have had better players out from the beginning, and then maybe you take them off whenever we have a good lead and maybe we're starting to click. But we do have a lot of matches, so you can't be that critical about them because we have a lot of really big matches coming up soon. So it can go either way.
It's a tough one. I definitely agree. That was not our best lineup by any means, but I understand why. The fact that we got the win, despite that, is fantastic. Marco Roberto joining us saying, hey Marco, thanks for jumping on. Colin coming in here saying masterclass last night, set the team up to press hard. So I don't believe I agree in terms of masterclass. I think he did what he needed to, while also keeping an eye on some future matches. And I think if he said he was treating it one match at a time with this one and this lineup, I think Pirlo would be lying. But I don't disagree with it or whatnot, but I don't necessarily know if it's a masterclass based on the lack of creation. And that's where I see the lack of adjustment from one match to the next. Colin also coming in here saying that watching the game again, it's clearly 4-4-2 throughout. It was pretty much almost in its entirety. There was a couple moments where it had shifted to his typical hybrid setup, but McKennie was not the McKennie we usually see. And to me, that's an adjustment Pirlo made based on stabilizing Merda's midfield. I think Kulishevsky, while also giving him flack for a lot of things, did a decent job of assisting in tying up Brozovic and not allowing him to kind of quarterback so much. So there were some adjustments from Pirlo, but it wasn't 100% balanced for us, and we still lacked creation and opportunities. And you take away the PK, which was essentially going to be a 50-50 play anyways. And again, that Ronaldo steal, we don't really create a lot again. So I don't know if I necessarily agree in saying it is a masterclass, and that's just me. But again, you guys keep going in the comments here. It's been great this morning. So much going on right now. It's just like insane. Everybody's getting in here. We got that Calcio boy saying a win against Merda is always a good win, but I thought the back line was questionable. Sandro, for me, was the poorest player on the field. Buffon played the ball way more than he should, in my opinion. We know in Pirlo's setup how crucial it is for the goalkeepers and being a part of that play and assisting the team and backing off there and relieving pressures, right? It's a big part of it. And Buffon's never really had to do that throughout his entire career, right? Teach an old dog new tricks. teach a goat new tricks, man. What is he? 43 years old, man. It is what it is. But this match, all in all, again, we beat Merda. Do we still have work to do? Absolutely. Will the next leg be tougher? I believe it will, with them getting two big players for them. Yeah. Will we line up the same in that one? I can almost guarantee you we won't. With Hakimi and Lukaku coming in, for me, there's no question in my mind we will not line up the same. It'll be different. But the challenging thing is, of course, February. We have Roma coming up, and the February schedule is pretty packed and intense. You got this match we just played. You've got Roma. You've got the follow-up, the second leg, to Coppa Italia against Merda. Then you have Napoli. And then you'll have your Champions League match. And it's packed. It's as crucial as the January one, but we went through January low-key only dropping one. Since that drop, Juve's been actually doing what they need to, which is tallying up the wins, so we're doing what we need to do. Can Pirlo be praised for that one? Well, yeah, ultimately we got the win, and that's the main objective. Do we still have work to do, though? Yes. The thing for me, it changes drastically based on the personnel, how we play, and everything. And have we really seen us full throttle with our absolute best? We always say, this is our best, but then you see like a match where it doesn't work out that great. And part of that is what the opponents give you and what the opponents do, and understanding that. So I don't know. That's my one thing, my one takeaway from this match. I love beating Merda, and I'm happy as shit that we did, because I was so pissed off after that first match, especially not even getting a goal, let alone registering chances in the 85th or 86th, whatever it was. So we beat them, which is great. And it's always, always nice watching Conte lose over there. Okay. That's always just an absolute pleasure to watch. But in terms of January and the schedule and your expectations going into that month, and now February, how do you think February plays out? Do you see Juve continuing to progress? Do you see Juve as a side that you still feel is Jekyll and Hyde, which is how many of us have felt for quite some time now? Like, how do you feel about this team right now in February and ready to attack this month?
I feel a lot better going into February than I did going into January. And that's big in and of itself. I think that we progressed as a team, in a month's time. I don't know, kind of what I said about the lineup in the game yesterday. I think that played into the way that we played, and I think that's why we didn't get the type of play, open play that we wanted to. So when I look at February, there are a lot of tough matches, and they're all back to back to back to back. I mean, we're in it right now, and we may drop some points here and there. I do expect to drop some in the next 5 or so games, but I do think that we're starting to figure out the identity. I think we're figuring out the best lineup, and I think if we put all those guys on the pitch at the same time, then we're going to get some good results. So, it just really depends. I mean, I'm going to look at it based on how, Milan does, how Merida does, how Roma does. I feel like if we were able to gain some points on them, I'm happy with the month of February. And I don't think we're going to have maximum points, but if we can gain some points in the table, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talk about moving on in February. Sanchez and Vidal will not be there for the second leg. Yes, and in terms of Vidal, they still have a loaded midfield, so they'll be okay coverage there. And I wouldn't have expect Sanchez to play the second leg with Lukaku available anyways. It'd be Lukaku and Lautaro, no question. And Conte will put everything at us and the kitchen sink in that second leg. So we'll have to be ready. In terms of February, what you were saying, Luka coming in here, he feels good when we have the best teams. His biggest actual worries once we start playing the lower teams come end of February after the Champions League. Yeah. So it's funny. And I guess like we kind of still have that Jekyll and Hyde, and why we can't keep that level the same when we play those lower teams. Right. And I think even in terms when you look at this match, adjustments tactically and stuff are fine and whatnot, but we really see when you have a certain number of changes to the lineup, how much the play with this team changes. I think he's got to come up with that magic number of switches from one match to the next where it doesn't affect it so drastically and keeps the play really, really balanced. There's matches where we literally look like we're only going to play through one wing the entire match. Then there's some matches where all angles of attack look great and it keeps balance. I think when you find that, I think there's a magic number there in terms of changes from one match to the next. And I think the only way that changes is the specific player that would be rotated if he's got a particular matchup that's the exact same. So if you're changing one for another, like for instance, in the midfield, we have certain guys that I feel are somewhat similar. I don't think I know we don't have anyone similar in terms of possession as Arthur and relieving the press. The next closest to him would be Bentancur, and there's a big gap there. There's a big gap there in terms of possession and holding things up and allowing us to get set and whatnot. Rabiot's a weird one. One game it'll look really, really good. As of lately, he did have a stretch where he was playing well. Then he had a not so good stretch, but for a bit now it's been hit and miss. Hyped up just like Fagioli too. While I think he did well and whatnot. That was a match in the Coppa Italia against Spal, and they had acres of space in the middle of the park. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. Rabiot looked like an absolute beast that match. Spal, wide open midfield. This particular match, he did not look like a beast whatsoever. He had waves. Okay, so it wasn't all bad. He had waves in and out of this game, like several players. So I think Pirlo's got to find that magic number while being able to give guys rest, but not changing the play so much where we lose the balance in terms of defense to attack and whatnot. I think if he can master that, we're in for a beauty run. And I know that a lot of us are thinking about Champions League. I keep asking people, like, I actually feel most confident probably in how deep we can go in Champions League because of how kind of unpredictable we are, and Abdul actually coming in here saying that Conte is an open book or whatnot, but Pirlo is unpredictable, which makes the games more interesting and thrilling to watch. It actually, and I've said this past few episodes here, it is actually like exciting. It's exciting because of the unknown, right? You don't know what Pirlo's going to give you. You don't know what you're going to get and whatnot, and it does change. Colin making notes about this one, playing out 4-4-2 and whatnot, but McKennie going in there, the young guys, he's not scared to give young guys opportunities. I see Marco coming in here who's saying Fagioli and Arthur in the mid. I'd probably pump the brakes on Fagioli while I'm excited about him. I don't know if I'm all of a sudden throwing him in there in big matches or anything, but I respect that with Pirlo. I respect a lot of things about Pirlo. That he's got the balls to stand behind his system that he believes in. That he's got the balls to play the young guys, give them their opportunities, give them their minutes. Does it make for nerve-wracking matches and moments? For sure. I've been nerve-wracking seeing some of these lineups going into certain matches, but I think he's coming along quite nicely. I want to get from you and everybody tuning in too live here. Alex P joining in now. Ciao, Alex. Thanks for joining. How did you think it was going to go with Pirlo? Were you thinking we would be sacrificing trophies? What were your thoughts in that transition? How has he done for you so far? And I ask everybody joining us live the same question.
So I didn't think we were going to be sacrificing trophies, mainly because we're Juve, and that we have to win. I mean, there's no. I don't think that they were okay with him, just making Champions League and tinkering around all year and not really getting the system in place that he wanted to. I think that I wouldn't have made the hire, honestly. I love Pirlo as a player. I think he's fantastic. He was fantastic as a player. But I wasn't sure that he had the experience to really manage a team of our size, especially going directly into first team. But I've been pleasantly surprised. I think that he has a system that you can tell game in, game out, kind of, what it is that we're trying to accomplish, how it is that we're trying to play. I think, when you talk about him and not knowing which team you're going to get and things like that, Jekyll and Hyde, I almost want to put that on the players. I mean, which Rabiot are we going to get? Which Bentancur are we going to get? Which Bernardeschi are we going to get? There's a lot of players that are really Jekyll and Hyde on our team. I think Rabiot is probably one of the most talented players that we have, but he's just not going to show up every game. So I think that you can't put that on Pirlo, but based on the time that we've had and the progression that we've seen, and also his kind of tactical and lineup flexibility that he has, it's a lot better than Sarri. I mean, I think that we saw something different yesterday than we've seen in games prior, and I like seeing that. I like adjusting based on the team that you're playing. I wouldn't have gone with the lineup. I would have probably gone with something a little bit differently, but we got the win, an ugly one, but we got the win. And, as long as you get the points, I'm okay. And I think that he's growing into his role as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He is growing into his role. Luca comes in with a question saying, he asked me this earlier, is exciting and nerving football with Pirlo better than boring and predictable Sarri play? In terms, for me, it's not just like in terms of play, everything's better. Like the players actually will stand behind Pirlo. Sarri didn't have the players on him. Sarri at the start hit the ground running, and the play actually was great. And you're like, wow, this is actually coming through. This is going to be really, really good, And then it just died. Something happened. It died. I don't know if you can pinpoint it around his kind of 2 matches in quick succession of subbing Ronaldo and him going at it, Ronaldo leaving the pitch. I don't know if you could pinpoint to that time, but there was a time where you could see it was just off, and Sarri basically just existed. There was nothing of him going through to this team. That's not the case with Pirlo. Honestly, Alex coming in here, honestly, he's been doing better than I expected. So there's that. And then that Calcio boy kind of sums it up very, very good. At the start, I was excited. As we dropped points, I became extremely skeptical. But at this point, I'm forgiving him the benefit of the doubt because there are glimpses of ideas. We need to win, though. And that's the thing is Pirlo did not get the benefit of a preseason. Sarri had that preseason. So Pirlo hasn't. So a lot of those matches, too, if we look back, those drop points, right now, the way the team's playing and forming and growing, I don't think we're in that same scenario. I think if it comes down to it, I feel more confident that we get those points in those matches, to be honest. So it's tough for Pirlo as well, because to walk into this being your first gig, Juve, never coaching before. He didn't even have his goddamn ticket when he got the job. So he still had to take the test and stuff. I think he's done fantastically well. I think the team's growing. Again, I think he's a couple tweaks away from something incredible. In terms of what you were saying, Luis, in terms of players and the consistency and stuff like that, we talked about Rabiot in and out. Sometimes I think that has to do too with how he deploys his team. Pirlo. And this is one of the tweaks I think he's got to work on and figure out too, because you put guys in certain areas. Not only just the guys in certain areas, but the guys around them. How's that going to work together? And through that match, definitely at the start, Sandro, Bernardeschi, and Rabiot was not clicking. It was not working. That left side was a big sore spot for me in that match, where I think we could have done better, and it just wasn't working there. So I think he's on to something. He's just got to stick to his ideas and whatnot, and he'll continue to grow. But right now, I'm pretty happy with what we're getting. He did even get the Super Cup, which is nice, against a rival in a one-off match. But be interesting to see how we fare in this Scudetto race. And now this is the big month because the knockout with Porto comes ahead as well. But it kicks off this weekend against Roma. This will be an interesting one, because if we think back to when we played Roma earlier in the season, again, a very, very fresh Pirlo side, nowhere near close to being as established as he is now with players and their roles. But that team picked us apart. Roma picked us apart. We were very, very fortunate to draw that match against Roma. This will be a great measuring stick match for how far Pirlo and this team has come, because they just chewed us apart in the middle. They were able to find those holes as we pressed, and were pretty much wide open. Roma came at us at will. So this is a big, big match in terms of measuring stick, in terms of the Scudetto race, in terms of everything. How do you feel it's going to go? Do you think we're going to see that growth, that change in this team from that first match to this one? Do you think we're going to struggle? What are your feelings going into this one, Luis, as we wrap up here?
I think we're gonna see a different team. I think we're gonna play it a lot differently. I think we've seen the growth since the last time we played them. I think it's gonna be a win, and I don't want to say it's gonna be easy, but I think we're gonna comfortably win, probably by a 2-goal margin against them. And we see this all the time. I mean, we've been winning now almost 9 years, working on our 10th, and a lot of teams have these great starts, and you're thinking, oh, these guys are going to challenge to the end. I don't think Roma is one of those teams. I think, Milan, the 2 Milan teams are probably going to compete. I don't even really think Napoli is going to compete all the way through, but I just think that we're in a better place right now. We have better players, and we're gonna win this game. I know that the confidence is probably too much. We may have a conversation about this at the weekend, but it's just Roma. They're not as deep as we are, and they're not as talented as we are. So we really should have easy work. But I think you mentioned this in the last cast, actually, where a lot of these teams, they have a lot of continuity. They have the same coaches. They have a lot of, they know each other a lot better than we do. And that's why we've kind of suffered. But at this point, with the talent that we have and with the continuity that we're starting to see, I think we should take care of it.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think we will see a much improved Juve. And I think we're beyond the point of being on the right track. It's just now everybody getting together and finding their roles and just being able to pull through. I think a lot of sometimes what we lack in these games, and again, talking about the number of changes Pirlo makes to one lineup from match to match, I think he really has to factor in the minutes certain guys have had going into that one, and if that's going to play a part too. So, but you said it. You said it well. He's growing as well as the team. So Pirlo's learning on the fly, but we've definitely seen a big shift from then till now. I'm absolutely pumped. I'm happy. I had a great day yesterday. We beat Merda. We're ready for the second leg. We're going to go into the weekend. I feel positive about that too. It's always good times when we beat Merda. So everybody, enjoy the rest of your weeks. Thank you so much, everybody that's joined in the live today. You guys are all amazing. Thanks, Luis, again for making it. Man, you were pretty pumped about doing this one, and we got that win that we were jacked up to talk about, man. Always nice getting a win to discuss. And really, even while I understand all our fans sometimes criticizing Pirlo, the club, players, and whatnot, it's all out of love and it's all for the best because we all want the best out of Juve and we want to see this team succeed. We're getting the right strides. We're going to make this push for this 10th straight. But the future is bright for Juventus, I feel. And regardless of outcome come the end of this season, I feel really good actually about Pirlo. And I can say that now. I think it's good. There was talks about Sarri wanting to keep him and get players that fit his system. I'd feel a lot better getting players that suit Pirlo. And if Pirlo is the guy that actually made shouts about profiles, McKennie being one of them, and his confidence in like a guy like Fagioli to even play him, whether it be a Coppa Italia match against Spal or whatnot, but confidence in playing for Volta, I think there's a lot of positives, and it could be the one thing that certain managers prior didn't have that Pirlo does, and it's that faith and that belief and that ability to understand these players a bit more given his background and whatnot. So I'm pumped. I'm jacked up. I'm ready, and I'll be back for the pre-match live for the Roma match, and of course another post-match podcast with another great guest. Juventini, enjoy the rest of your week. It's been fantastic, and we will see you pre-match before Roma. As always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.